Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Time Added On. My name is Alfredo Fumaces.
And I'm Cristiano Oliveira.
Every week, 5 topics, 2 minutes each. We bring you the hottest topics in Benfica land. First up, Rafa Silva. Rafa has been a tremendously important player for Benfica this early, this late in the season in his final stretch. Very explosive player. And Chris, you've often said that he is Benfica's most dangerous player.
He might not be their best player, but he is sure as hell their most dangerous player. And when Rafa is on, Benfica is on. And when this guy is ticking to his own tune, Benfica is as dangerous as any team in Europe. And we've seen that against Frankfurt, against Vitória Setúbal, against whomever the hell it is that Benfica faces. He is a phenomenal player because there's one thing, as I've stated many times on the Benfica podcast, you cannot teach amongst the many things, size, ability. You cannot teach speed, ladies and gentlemen. And Rafa has speed. He is a phenomenal player. And today, he is as dangerous as anyone in the Benfica
Absolutely.
uniform.
39 games, 27 of them as a starter, 16 goals. That's an all-time career high. 5 goals in the last 10 games. And his contract actually expires in 2021.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of conversations already about whether or not Benfica should renew Rafa.
And look, the positive news here is that he wants to extend this contract with Benfica. Benfica wants him back, and I think it suits everyone to bring back Rafa Silva. I think the guy has scored phenomenal amount of goals of late. I know it is a career high, but that being said, he still misses a shitload of them in front of goal. So just imagine if Rafa was able to be a clinical finisher in front of goal.
Yeah, and from early on in his Benfica days, when we had a lot of criticism towards him, a lot of issues with the shirt maybe being too heavy for Rafa or feeling the pressure. A guy that was born in Vila Franca, Chile, and is perhaps a Benfiquista at heart. So maybe that pressure played a little bit into his early start of the
I must be
Benfica
honest,
career.
I don't know where the hell Vila Franca is, where it sits, but look, he's a Benfiquista, so he's one of mine. But look, I was one of those that questioned whether the Benfica shirt was too heavy or not. And look, to his credit, the guy's turned it around. He's been phenomenal for Benfica. And when he's on, as I stated earlier, just a couple minutes ago, when he's on, Benfica is on. He's been spectacular. And I think Benfica needs to do everything in their power to keep this guy around the start to lose because he's a phenomenal young player and only a guy that could just add as much as possible to any Benfica player. Moving on to the next topic. Since we're talking about guys being informed today, Joao Felix, a guy that is in the mouth of everyone throughout European football and anyone that covers football around the world, had a phenomenal performance, scored his very first hat-trick against the Frankfurt's Eintrach. I can't pronounce the Germany. I'm glad my parents came to the United States of America rather than Germany. But he's been phenomenal of late. Alfredo, your thoughts on the youngster, O Príncipe?
Look,
Joao Felix.
it's hard, right? And a couple of weeks ago or last week, we criticized them here. We didn't really criticize them, but we wondered whether some of the offers that were coming together, some of the sharks circling around, if that was playing something of a mental factor in his mind because his performance had dropped. 37 games for Benfica, 27 as a starter, 16 goals, 11 assists in the Liga NOS. It's an impact player, and there's no way that at this point you could get around Joao Felix.
Look, those numbers to me are just gibberish. I'm sorry, they're gibberish. The only numbers that matter to me are the numbers from the point where Bruno Lage took over as Benfica head coach. I think the player is a totally different player. I think he is spectacular. I know he scored early goals against Sporting against to lose a game that I had the privilege of being president. Comes in, scores a header, ties the game. But that was a pre-Bruno Lage, and now we're after Bruno Lage. Yeah. I think he is a spectacular, totally different player under Bruno Lage. And this is a player that sky's the limit. We did not criticize him last week. I must say I was the first to say I thought he might have benefited from a couple of games on the bench because it seemed like the games were getting too heavy for him. He looked like to be tiring out. To his credit, he says, Manu, Cristiano, shut the beep up, and he scored a hat-trick when Benfica most needed him to, and now the rest of the world is finally aware of the phenomenal young phenom that Benfica has at their disposal.
Yeah, turning our attention now to Benfica's second leg in Frankfurt, as we mentioned, against Eintrach. Benfica takes a 2-goal lead into Frankfurt, but a 2-goal lead on aggregate. It's 4-2 on aggregate, but it's really 2 goals. If Frankfurt scores 2 goals, they're up and they could kick us out. What are your thoughts? Benfica hasn't gotten this far in European competition in quite some time.
Look, I think Benfica needs to apply the pressure that we saw at the start of the lose. I think Benfica needs to go on and get the to go ahead and get the early goal. I think if you get the early goal, I think the tie is a wrap. I think Benfica is on to the semis and face, hopefully, whether it's Chelsea, where they could get their revenge against the Holy Grail, the big monster, the shark that Benfica had the unfortunate pleasure of going against in the UEFA Cup final in 2012, if I'm not...
A few years ago.
Whatever it was, but I think it's 2012. They lost on Ivanovic goal in the 88th minute. I think Benfica has the opportunity to right their ship, but obviously playing against the Frankfurt is an important game. But I think Benfica has the ability and the responsibility to go out there and impose their power. Bruno Lage, hopefully he won't rotate the squad too much, because there are very limited opportunities that you get to make it to a European, whether it's the Champions League or Europa League. You make it to a European semifinal. It is a prestigious honor, and Benfica should honor that honor with the right mentality.
Right, and we're getting to the point that when Benfica has to choose, right? As you mentioned, there's a lot of prestige that comes with the European competition of this size, regardless of being the step brother or step sister to the UEFA Champions League. Nonetheless, it brings a lot of prestige to the club. Our club, Benfica, as we know it, should be in these final stages of these European competitions, because it's a team with a large historial as far as the club history goes. So we should be there. So there's almost a balancing act, right? We have no margin for error in domestically, and now we have this competition where we want to progress. We want to go forward.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Look, we have no margin for error, but look, ladies and gentlemen, it comes down to this very simple. I understand that some of you might value the Liga Nor's title over the European League title, but look, I look at it this way. I think if you have an opportunity to break and snap this Bella Goopman curse, you go out and you put your best foot forward, and you do exactly that, because I am tired of making it to European finals and losing. I think Benfica needs to put that behind them, and maybe, just maybe, the sky's the limit from that point on.
Absolutely.
Moving on to the next topic. Another topic that is highly contested in Portuguese football. I was about to say European football. Nobody cares on this point. But in Portuguese football, it seems like everyone else, the Dragatos, the sweet alliance that we've seen in Portuguese football, everyone is up in arms, which is Petit forcing yellow cards, heading into this matchup against Benfica in the Liga Nos. What is it? 29th round of the Liga Nos Campeonato, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. What are your thoughts about that? As far as Petit admitting that he did force.
Look, you got to praise his honesty, right? Even if it's happening in other times and people are just not being forthcoming, right? So there's going to be the conspiracy theorists are always going to say, oh, he did that on purpose. Petit saved everybody a favor, saved everybody their trouble, and said, yes, I did it on purpose. I had done it against Porto. I sat a couple players against Porto because our championship is not against Benfica or Porto. So I did it before, and I'm doing it now.
As I stated on the Benfica podcast, Liz, if you didn't catch that, catch this. Pay attention to what the hell I'm saying, which is, look, I might admire and I see his vision as a head coach, but I'm sorry, Benfica, I don't mean to upset anyone, but I really believe that you can't admit that in an open platform. I think the minute you admit that you're saving players, you're being conservative, you're saying because you don't think that Benfica is an opponent that you could overcome, I think you're doing your club a disservice. I think it's not right for Portuguese football. I don't think it's right in the competition level, because once you admit that in a public format, how the hell are you exposed to or expected to explain to the rest of your roster that this is a game that we must win, guys? We have an obligation to at least squeak out a point. I don't think it's a message that you could get across to the rest of your team. So I would have much rather he would have kept it in-house. I would have much rather he came up with a bullshit excuse that we're accustomed to seeing in Portuguese football, because there's plenty of bullshit in Portuguese football. So I would have rather he just said, look, we can't control what players do, rather than being honest. This is not like you're speaking to Father Peter and you're trying to confess yourself and being open-minded to him. I think there are things that you can't hide, and I think that most of the general public would have understood. Now, when you come out, you admitted it, there's plenty of questions that could be asked. again, as a Benfiquista, I'm speaking to you as a Benfiquista. If he had admitted against Porto, and I know he did sit players against Porto, according to him now, I would have questioned it. So I'm trying to give it a leeway. I'm trying to look at it from both sides of the fence.
Yeah, absolutely. Our last topic, Francisco Ferreira, also known as
Who's that?
also known as Ferro. That's probably a lot of people's reaction when you mentioned the name Francisco Ferreira, also known as Ferro, has just been voted March's Liga Nor's Defender of the Month. Quite impressive for a guy that just a few months ago was playing for Benfica B.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a guy that's come out into the scene. He's been absolutely phenomenal. He's made everyone forget about the great prospect that Ruben Dias, the future captain of Benfica, is. He has been phenomenal, with the exception of the Cueca against Iliberto this weekend against Vitória Setúbal. He's been lights out, and I think this is a kid that the sky is the limit. I know I say that about all these young Benfica players, but what the hell can I say about all these guys made in Seychelles? They're all phenomenal. And again, I think Benfica and myself, we all sit here and we win a little something when we all praise these guys. So why not the hell praise this guy?
Yeah, look, absolutely. And when we got called up during the winter break to the main team, there was a lot of questions because, after all, we did have Herman Conti. We had, who was the other guy that I forget his name that came together?
He's out the Peñarol right now.
The two best center backs for the Argentinian Clausura for the year of 2017. But I don't know his name. Lemma. There you go. So we always question, well, why do we need another center back? But he has come in and he's really has put his stamp in the game, right? 8 games for the A team. 2 goals, and the most impressive thing, 1 yellow card. And for a center back, I mean, you look at Ruben Dias, it seems like he's getting a yellow card every game. But this is the type of game that Ferro plays. Smooth player, good feet, likes to go forward with the ball, has the passing range, has the know-how to find the holes, and he's a guy that's really, for me, is really the surprise of the season.
That is the biggest question. I mean, the most surprising aspect of his game is, and you asked me coming into the season about his feet, his ability with the ball at his feet, I would have been the first guy in line questioning prior to what I've seen and based on what I've seen at the U19 level and the B team level. And the guy has been absolutely lights out. He's way better than anyone would have expected with the ball at his feet. And look, credit to him, credit to Bruno Lage, credit to anyone that's gotten this player ready to play at this level. And I think he's been phenomenal, and I'm glad that he's won this March Award, and I can't wait to see what the future brings for him.
Absolutely. That's all we got for you this week. Don't forget to check us out at benficaindependent.com. Also on Twitter at TimeAO19. Check us out also both on Twitter. Don't forget to follow Benfica Independent at SLB Independent on Twitter. That's all we got. Thanks a lot. My name is Alfredo Famasas.
And I'm Cristiano Oliveira.
And we'll see you next week.
Peace.